What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mixed Martial Arts, and we have a really good UFC card tomorrow that I'm going to be breaking down and making my predictions for. It's UFC 258, Kamaru Usman defending his belt against Gilbert Burns, former teammates, and this is going to make for a really interesting fight. So there's the poster for the card, and it's Usman versus Burns. I'm really looking forward to this card. For the first fight, it's Maki Pitolo versus Marquez. I have Pitolo winning this one. And second fight on the card, Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher. This one, I have Ricky Simone getting the win. And then the third fight is where things get really interesting. Calvin Gastelum is making his return in this fight. He's going up against Ian Heinisch. And Ian Heinisch is a relative newcomer to the UFC. He doesn't have too many fights. Kelvin Gastelum certainly has the experience advantage. He's gone up against the best of the best. He has a fight with Israel Adesanya, and it was a close fight. Also, he rocked Adesanya in that fight, and he won probably 2 rounds in that 5 round war. So he has experience in the UFC. He has some big wins. He's on a bit of a losing streak now. He just got submitted in his last fight, so it's going to be interesting to see how he looks in his return. Uh, I'm really hoping that he can get back to his winning ways. He's a really exciting middleweight contender. He's performed great against Adesanya, although he didn't get the win. He did look really good, and he has some big wins in his career, including over Michael Bisping. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks in his first fight back, and hopefully he can get back to his winning ways like he used to at middleweight. Of course, Ian Heinisch doesn't have as many fights. Probably his biggest win in the UFC was against Gerald Meerschaert in his last fight. So we'll see how he can do against a real middleweight contender, Calvin Gastelum. Although he's on a losing streak, it's a good test for him. For this one, I have Calvin Gastelum winning. I just think he has the experience advantage. He's got phenomenal striking, and I think he's going to come in really motivated for this one after he's coming off a couple of losses, including the Israel Adesanya loss, which there's no shame in taking. Adesanya doesn't have a single loss in his career, but I do think Calvin Gastelum is going to get the win in this fight. And the co-main event, we're going to see the return of Maycee Barber. She hasn't fought in a year, although she's looked really good in the UFC in her first couple of fights. She has a few knockout wins, and she's looked quite dominant. She's still one of the youngest fighters in the UFC. I mean, her name is the future. She still has tons of potential, and we'll see how good she really is. She just has excellent pressure and a lot of power for a former strawweight. Now she's a flyweight, but she has a lot of power and her striking is great. I know she trained karate, and so she has great striking from her experience in karate since she was a kid, I believe. Although she is coming off her first loss in the UFC, it was a pretty devastating loss to Roxanne Modafferi, but she's a very experienced fighter, and that that is definitely not an easy fight. So we'll see how Maycee Barber looks in her return. She's going up against Alexa Grasso, who's been in the UFC for longer. She has fought some big names. She has a few losses and a few wins in the UFC, but she's a very good fighter as well. This is going to be a good fight. We're going to learn a lot about each fighter, and I think in this one that Maycee Barber is going to get the win. She's been off for a year. She's probably feeling really motivated to get back, and I think she has a big advantage in the striking realm. So I think this fight's going to take place on the feet, and I do believe Maycee Barber has the advantage there. Although she's been out for a year and she had a pretty serious injury and surgery, we'll see how she looks, but she's young and she's motivated. I think she has the edge here, especially in the striking. Uh, so this will be an interesting fight, and we'll see what happens. My pick is Barber, though. And the main event is where things get really interesting. Kamaru Usman, I mean, his pressure is just unbelievable. Even just in this stare down, you could see he just look at this stare down was very intense when he fought Kobe Covington. Those guys didn't like each other. This fight with Gilbert Burns is a bit different. They're former teammates. They have experience training together for years. Actually, Kamaru Usman actually cornered Gilbert Burns for one of his fights. So they're former friends, potentially even friends now. But based on the stare down that happened on Friday evening, doesn't look like they're taking that friendship into this fight. They're going to be going to war. I think it's going to be a great fight. And Another really interesting point in this fight is that Kamaru Usman, who's the champion, actually left the gym, Sanford MMA, where he and Gilbert Burns train. Usually, when two teammates or former teammates fight, it would be the challenger who leaves the gym to go and get a new coach for the fight. Of course, they don't want to train in the same gym and see each other and know what their opponent's game plan is, so one fighter usually leaves the gym. And in this case, it's the champion who leaves, which is really interesting. Perhaps the coaches wanted to train Burns for this fight because they think he has a better chance at winning. And so Kamaru Usman's been training with Trevor Whitman for this fight and with Justin Gaethje. So he has a new camp, and although he did have that camp for the Masvidal fight as well, but it's going to be cool to see him with a new coach and going up against his former teammate and former coaches. That's going to be cool to see. And what do you guys think? Why do you think Kamaru Usman left the gym rather than Gilbert Burns? Why do you think the challenger got to stay in his gym while Kamaru Usman had to get a new coach for this? Why do you think it worked out that way? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And who do you think got the better of the sparring sessions? Because they've been sparring partners for years. I mean, one of them probably knows that the other was able to win most of the sparring sessions. So, who do you guys think got the better of? Who do you guys think got the better of the other in the sparring sessions? Was it Usman or was it Burns? And who do you guys think wins the fight? Let me know in the comments what you think. Kamaru Usman has really good striking though, so this is a very evenly matched fight. Both fighters have excellent striking, and both fighters are excellent on the ground too. Kamaru Usman's wrestling and his pressure is unbelievable. I mean, his cardio is phenomenal, and he has really good power and very technical striking as well. His striking is probably, I would say, it's on a pretty even level with Burns from what I've seen. Burns, he's a former lightweight. He's recently moved up to welterweight, and he's 2-0 so far at welterweight. He's got a win over Damian Maia, and recently he has a win over Tyron Woodley as well. So both men have beat Tyron Woodley because Usman got the belt off of Woodley. So they've both beat formidable opponents, and they're both very dominant fighters. Gilbert Burns, I think he has the advantage on the ground. He has really good jiu-jitsu. Usman's not really known for his submissions as much as for his wrestling and his dominance. So I don't think Usman's going to go for the takedown in this fight because it's a little bit risky to take Burns down considering his jiu-jitsu pedigree. But we'll see what happens. And Usman's really good in the clinch too. So that could be a potential strategy in this fight, but maybe that opens up the potential for Burns to submit him as well. So what I think is going to happen here is it's going to be a striking match. And I think it's going to play out similarly to the Covington fight in that neither guy is really able to get the other one down. If someone does go for the takedown, I would expect it to be Gilbert Burns because I think he has the advantage in the jiu-jitsu department. But I don't see Usman going for a takedown in this fight. I just think it's too risky, and it doesn't really play to his advantages. I think that he has the better advantage on the feet in the striking department. But Gilbert Burns, he has dangerous striking too. He has big power, and he can knock out Usman on the feet. So this is going to be a really exciting fight, and who knows what's going to happen here, really. It's anyone's guess. Burns has great takedowns too. He took down Tyron Woodley, who's a great wrestler himself. And his fight with Tyron Woodley was really it was complete dominance by Burns. So if you ask me, I personally think Gilbert Burns got the better of the sparring sessions, and that is why I think Usman had to leave gyms while Burns stayed. The coaches probably think Burns has a better chance of winning the fight because that's probably the reason why he has stayed at in their original gym, and Usman had to leave training in Colorado with Trevor Whitman, probably because he didn't win the sparring sessions in general. And yeah, so that's why I think Burns stayed at the gym. That's why I think his coaches want to continue training him, and we'll see what happens in the fight. Um, so, and I do think Gilbert Burns is the better fighter here. I think he's overall the better fighter, but Kamaru Usman has more experience, and I think he's got that championship mindset to win a fight no matter what. We saw that against Colby Covington. He did have to deal with some adversity, but he managed to pull through it and get the win because he just has that mindset where he's willing to go through pain and punishment to win the fight. Burns, we've seen him get in trouble before. We've seen him get knocked out. While we haven't seen that from Usman, and while Burns has looked excellent at welterweight so far, it's tough to say how he's going to deal with the adversity that Usman will most likely dish out to him. And sparring versus fighting, it is different. In the fight, there's no holding back. You're going for the kill. While in sparring, and you don't have to deal with as much adversity in sparring. While in a fight, you're going to go through pain, and your opponent's not going to let down. Especially Kamaru Usman, he wants to keep that belt. So I think Gilbert Burns is going to have to deal with a lot of adversity here, which he didn't really have to deal with in his first two fights at welterweight. For that reason, I think Usman has the championship mentality, and that's really what I think is the differing factor here. Because, like I said, I think Burns is the better fighter, but I do believe Usman is going to get the win. I think Burns is going to get in trouble, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of it. So I have Usman winning this fight. What do you guys think? Who do you see winning the main event? Do you think that Usman is going to remain the champion, or do you think Burns is going to get the belt? And what are your predictions for the other fights? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video and enjoy the fights tomorrow.